This is a video I thought I would never have to make, and to be honest, I'm quite frustrated and kind of embarrassed as well. But hopefully there is something to learn from this crash. So let me roll those clips. So that just happened. Yeah, where is it? I should be pretty close, and I can see water, which is not good. And I cannot see the... There we have it. Yeah. Well, this looks beat up. Oh, look at that. Okay, so for once I actually managed to not crash in the water. Well, hopefully this is okay. So I want to go through why and how this happened and hopefully help you guys in some way so you don't make the simple mistakes that I did when you're out flying with your Mini 3 Pro. So in today's video, I want to tell you exactly what happened and also how to sort of avoid this, because there is some easy steps to follow, and how you can learn from the mistakes I did, and hopefully I can give you some valuable information about my crash, which prevents you from being in the same position in the future. And this actually happened when I was out shooting a test video with the latest Mini 3 Pro firmware and the latest DJI Fly app 1.9.9. But what makes me really frustrated is that this had nothing to do with the drone at all. It was a straight up beginner mistake. And this shows you that mistakes can be made even for experienced or professional pilots who have been flying for years. So, what happened? When I was out shooting the test video, I went through all the different modes as you might have seen in that video. And if you haven't, I recommend checking it out if you haven't updated to the latest DJI Fly 1.9.9 yet and the latest firmware for the DJI Mini 3 Pro. And testing this is something that I frequently do when there is a new update, and from time to time as well, to see if there is some bugs which could cause some issues when I'm out flying my drone. And also to test the new features which might be added, and this time it was tripod mode, or the ability to change the speed parameters in gain and expo, which is really awesome. Again, thanks to Philip Bloom, I can't address this enough. It's something that I've been waiting for forever. But as you might know, there is quite windy on the coast here in Norway, and it's been snowing on and off for the past month now, or 6-7 weeks, and the weather hasn't really been optimal. And I also did an active track test, which is something that I always do every single flight, whether this is a test flight or if I'm out flying my drone to shoot some cinematic videos. I always add a session with active track, but this time I should have not. You see, this is one of the few times that I've actually used parallel tracking with the Mini 3 Pro. I mean, I do test it like I just did, and I do this when there is a new update to see how everything is working. But I just finished up my recordings of a long-term video on the Mavic 3 Classic. And this is also the drone I've been flying the most in the past month. And I think you know where I'm going with this. You see, the Mavic 3 Classic has side sensors. The Mini 3 Pro does not have side sensors, which means using parallel tracking on your Mini 3 Pro, you have a higher risk of crashing it because it doesn't have any sensors to, keep your drone safe. And looking at the footage here frame by frame, you can also see here that the drone is getting caught inside the tree line here before it hits one of the branches and then bounces all over the place. If this would be with the Mavic 3 Classic or any other drone which has side sensors, this would not have happened. But I'm not saying trash your Mini 3 Pro and go get a Mavic 3 Classic right now, or any drone with a 360-degree obstacle avoidance sensors. The Mini 3 Pro is still an amazing drone, and there is a few steps you can do to avoid ending up in the same situation like me. I'm just extremely grateful for the quality of the DJI drones. As you can see in the clip right here, this took some real swinging and still left without a scratch. So, I mean, I'm really impressed with the quality of these drones. This has no scratches whatsoever. There is a few on the propellers, but these I can easily change because I have a lot of spare propellers for the Mini 3. So I'm really surprised by the quality of the Mini 3 Pro actually. Okay, so let's talk about how this happened in the first place. So the first mistake I did was not the actual flying or using parallel tracking with the Mini 3 Pro. If we look at the footage here, both of the sides of the parking lot has tree lines. And I first put the altitude of my drone to be above the tree line on the right. But the trees on the left is significantly higher, so this is going to be an issue. On the first round, I'm also going pretty slow, and the Mini 3 Pro had no issues with the tracking, though it was a little bit off on parallel tracking, so I decided to change the position of it before I did the next round. And this is something I do all the time, because at the start, if your drone is not positioned on the side of the subject or object, it will take some time before it catches up and flies directly on the side of your car, boat, or yourself walking. So I always place my drone on the side before I hit go. Now, the second mistake was the wind. If you pay attention to the radar here on the bottom left of the screen, you can see this blue turquoise area. This gives you an indication of wind and replicates the angle of your drone. So looking at this during the last flight here, you can see that the Mini 3 Pro is really struggling with the wind. So these are the main elements that I was feeling on when I was doing this test, and it should be avoided. It should be avoided. So the first one, we have the wind, and then we have the trees, and those two combined with using an automated flight mode, which Active Track is basically, it's not good, especially in extreme windy conditions and when you fly so close to trees. So how can you avoid ending up in the same situation as me? So the first warning sign is of course the wind. And during my test that day, I was also experiencing a lot of strong wind warnings, and I usually ignore these because most of the time I'm actually flying manual with the controller and then end my flights with some quick shots or tracking shots, especially if I'm out hiking or on a trip. But when you use Active Track, everything is automated, which is awesome, but it also means you're not in control. And in my situation, there was high winds and gusts coming in now and then, and the Mini 3 Pro is only weighing 249 grams. So it's easily going to be a toss ball for the wind, which in some cases might flex with the altitude and the distance of a smaller drone. So in this case, that happened. So if you're not in an open wild field or area where there is no obstacles at all and you receive high wind warnings, I would strongly advise not to use the parallel tracking of your Mini 3 Pro unless you are tracking it and you have a visual line of sight, you see where it's going to fly to next, then of course do it. But if you're sitting in a car like I did, don't. It also depends on the object you're tracking. Like I was tracking my car, which is going a little bit faster than a human walking, and this will also make the drone fly just as fast, or in some cases faster, to keep up and adjust its position to the object. Second one. First, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? These trees has the same distance away from my car as the drone. So this is all on me trying to test this update for you guys. I'm actually quite embarrassed. I'm actually quite embarrassed because this should never have happened. After 8 years of flying drones, this is the first time I've actually crashed one of my normal drones. So what can I get out of this? What can I get out of this mistake? Well, Combining the two, the wind and my noobiness on this particular flight, the environment was not suited for parallel tracking, or the way that I pursued parallel tracking was not correct. First, we have the trees, then we have the wind, and I was driving my car in circles, which will force the drone to bounce back and forth to correct itself in order to track my car. So 3 elements and a recipe for a crash. Now, this is a typical beginner mistake when you first get your drone. You are all excited and you want to get out there and test all the amazing features which your drone might have, especially if you get the Mini 3 Pro. And you're just getting overwhelmed with all these amazing things that's going on the screen, and you basically forget to pay attention to the surroundings around you, the wind, and also the features your drone have and might not have, like sideways sensors. So when you're out flying with your drone, it's really important to pay attention to the surroundings, especially when you're using automated flight features like Active Track. You can also do a manual test flight first to check the height and the distance of nearby objects, and also to see what altitude you should be placing your drone at when initiating Active Track. It's also important to know that the altitude can flex between 3 and 4 meters in height depending on the movement of the drone. So if the drone has to adjust according to the movement of the subject, it's more likely that the drone will have some changes in altitude as well as distance. To be honest, I'm actually quite embarrassed. I really am, but it shows you that no matter experience, this can happen to anyone. So hopefully you learned something from this, and if you did, let me know by dropping a like below. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That would be really appreciated. And all the footage that you've seen in this video has been collaborated with my Signature LUTs, which you will find down in the description below. This motion graphics that you see on the screen is also available for Final Cut Pro 10, and some of them are available for LumaFusion on Android and iOS. So if you want to check those out, there will be a link down to that in the description below. So again, I'm really impressed with the quality of the Mini 3 Pro. I mean, that was quite a heavy crash, wasn't it? And it was bouncing all over the place, and there is no issues, no marks, nothing on the Mini 3 Pro. Nothing at all, only the propellers. Wow, such a great device.